In time to settle down, for the swelling hopefully to subside in the course of time.
Well, Jean Alesi, 0.7 of a second slower than Michael Schumacher. And there's a man who is currently second on the grid. And John, a very good performance on Thursday afternoon from Martin Brundle.
First time Martin had a front row position, he was delighted with it. He's out to defend it this afternoon. This morning, a little bit further down, he was in fact only 14th quickest. But the morning session, traditionally the time when the teams do a lot of the homework for the Grand Prix. And with an Alesi very nearly losing his Ferrari coming around the swimming pool complex. And really, just going to Alesi now, since his return to the cockpit of a Ferrari, he's driven so hard. In fact, I feel he's overdriving. And that's just an illustration of how desperate he is to reassert himself in the Ferrari team. Of course, Monaco being right on the doorsteps of his home. So a typical Alesi aggressive lap. In reality, it's too aggressive, and he's not getting the best out of himself or his Ferrari.
Half a second slower than his best on Thursday afternoon. And Jean Alesi, who in all the sessions so far, including this morning where Michael Schumacher again was fastest, has been slower than Gerhard Berger, who has been in fine form, I must say.
Well, it's understandable. A driver, he misses a couple of races through injury. I'm quite sure that Alesi is feeling discomfort from the bumps around the circuit. He is wearing a neck brace, and it just takes a race or two to drive yourself back in.
Well, this is the best in-car shot I've ever seen in Formula One. It's the front-mounted camera on Olivier Berretta's Le Rouge, and John, I just love that shot.
The pictures are the most realistic. It gives the best impression of speed. Remember, it's a single lens camera, wide angle, so you're almost getting the same effect as you would get from within the very narrow window of a full-face helmet. This is as realistic as anybody, I think, has been able to produce so far.
First driver to improve this afternoon is Michele Alboreto, who is now in 18th position, and he improved by 6/10, so conditions should be good here this afternoon in Monaco.
Well, just watching Beretta as he comes through the Louvre Hotel hairpin bend and coming down into the series of corners called Portier that they lead on to the seafront, and from here it's the charge flat out through the tunnel. Now the corner in the tunnel, if we get to see it, well, we can't quite from the onboard camera. That corner is a lot tighter than it looks. It's just about flat. You're never quite sure whether you're going to make it or not. You burst into the sunlight again, and then it's straight onto the brakes, and that's the point of the circuit on Thursday where Carl Wendinger went out of control and his car slid sideways into the barrier at that chicane.
Olivier Beretta, his best.
The times that were recorded on Thursday pretty much improved across the entire grid. Being a street circuit, the nature of the circuit, the surface, the more rubber it gets down, the quicker it becomes. So expect to see improvements really across the board. And Berger, dynamic throughout the weekend, and putting behind him the loss that he felt from Imola 2 weeks ago. Teammate Ayrton Senna and fellow countryman Roland Ratzenberger, both dying in a very tragic Grand Prix. He held a press conference on Wednesday, explained his point of view. He didn't want to be bothered throughout the weekend by individual questions. It was very candid, very open and honest press conference, and there he is driving as hard as ever.
Improvement from Gerhard Berger, but not an improvement in position, while one of the Pacifics is being winched away, and the Pacifics that have been basically very slow. They've been roughly 9 seconds off the pace, which is a lot on the slow lap, on the short lap.
Well, that car has been craned away, in fact, at the slip road where the chicane is. So one assumes there was something mechanical. The car doesn't look damaged, and that's a convenient place for a car to be taken away from the racetrack. Niki Lauda in the Ferrari pits with his boss, Jean Todt. And in many respects, Monaco is not the most ideal circuit for Ferrari, but the team equally working very hard indeed. Berger now joined by Alesi. The team anxious to get that elusive win. How many Grand Prix is it since they last had a Grand Prix win?
Well, I don't know how many Grand Prix in total, John, but it's well over 1,350 days since the last time. And it's Spain 1990. Jerez, Alain Prost won there. So that's a good 4 years, John. 3.5 years.
It's a long time. And Johnny Herbert just checking mirrors.
While Michael Schumacher is not out on the circuit, but still the fastest driver on provisional pole position. Martin Brundle second, Mika Häkkinen is third, Gerhard Berger fourth, Jean Alesi behind teammate Martin Brundle.
And this morning Häkkinen was mighty. He improved by almost a second. He was second quickest, in fact, with a 1 minute 20.915. So Häkkinen just working his way up. And a little bit, I think, stung by the fact that teammate Martin Brundle out-qualified him on Thursday. But Häkkinen did have a problem. There was smoke coming from the back of the car, but it turned out to be a crack in a part of the gearbox casing. He was aware of the problem. The team said, forget it, just go out there, do the best you can. He got provisional third place, and this morning, impressive indeed.
0.3 of a second away from Michael Schumacher's fastest time. The first intermediate just before the Leurs hairpin, and the second intermediate, well, it's his right foot to the floor and he'll get there.
And it's so quick as you come through the tunnel in that curve. The car probably about 150 miles an hour at the apex and picking up speed all the way down to the braking zone. 175 is the quickest we saw on Thursday afternoon. Oh, Mika absolutely committed coming through the first part of the swimming pool complex. The second part is the slower bit. You arrive at that second part so quickly. Oh, and again, look at that, sideways into Raskas. And up to the final little flick-flack onto start-finish straight. 1 minute 20.23 was a beat.
Well, he's getting closer, 120.838.
And that's a tenth of a second faster than he achieved this morning. Mika Häkkinen now joining Schumacher on the front row of the provisional grid.
Häkkinen staying hard on it, chucking that car from left to right, and the man is, I reckon, absolutely mighty, John, in that McLaren at the moment.
Well, the confidence that we saw in Mika Häkkinen back in Estoril last year, he got into the car to replace Michael Andretti. It was just awesome. This year, maybe a little bit more caution. New Peugeot engine, the team developing both a new chassis and that V10 engine together. It's coming together. And of course, a street circuit like Monaco, I think, really fits the engine characteristics of the Peugeot very well indeed.
Häkkinen being closer than he's ever gone before. Now, past the swimming pool, actually just stopping 212, I think it was, John, going in through that little left-right flick before the swimming pool, and that is fast.
Alan, I tell you, the one thing you don't want to do at that part of the circuit is blink, because if you do, you'll miss the corner. Well, again, on the edge, all the way on to start-finish straight. 20.8, his quickest lap to date. 20.5, a further 3/10.
So, Mika Häkkinen improving, and now being 0.3 of a second away from Michael Schumacher, who we haven't seen yet. So that is 1.3 seconds improving.
And a good strategy from McLaren. They took the opportunity. They sent Häkkinen out. The circuit is virtually clear of traffic. Got two good clean laps. I suspect that this lap he will later out now. He's going to abandon and may wait and have a third attempt at improving his provisional second place.
Well, you've got two Finns in the picture there, Mika Häkkinen in the McLaren with the Peugeot engine, and there's actually Walter running onto the circuit just when you want to accelerate some.
It's been there, in fact, since the beginning of the session. And if that does dry up before the end, it'll make another tenth or so difference. Accelerating in first gear out of that chicane. Traction is at a premium, and that little damp patch of water shaves away those vital tenths.
Now here's a disappointed Finn, John. JJ Leto in 14th position on a 1:23.885, and I think we can safely say that is disappointing.
Well, JJ made a great recovery from his neck injuries in Imola. Sadly, he was involved in that start line shunt, but just finding the rhythm of this Monaco circuit is the key to going quickly. Häkkinen certainly has found it. JJ's looking for it. You know, it's so easy on a street track to try too hard, to overdrive, to run into corners and brake just that inch or two too late, unsettle the car. Again, you see, he's fighting the car. The car is not working with him. Driver and car here have to work in unison, probably more than any Grand Prix circuit in the calendar.
But John, I also think it's the only Grand Prix circuit where there's more corners where you can't see where you're going. I mean, that's just, I can't think of any corner around this circuit where when you turn in, you can't see the exit.
Well, the only circuit I think that has ever been worse than this was the Grand Prix in Las Vegas in 1981 and 82 in the car park of Caesar's Palace, and you had 3-foot-high concrete walls all around the circuit, and it was as if Formula One had gone skeletric.
JJ's current best 23.885. Well, that's a small improvement for JJ Leto so far. That's only his second flying lap. Now, John, with all respect for JJ, we can see him improve on that run, but 3.6 seconds away, that's a lot to find.
I mean, that's like a month in motor racing terms. A massive amount of time. And again, you see, braking too hard, a little bit too late. The car's unsettled entering the corner. You can't get the front in. You try and muscle it in. You get on the par that little bit too early. You've got too much understeer. The transference from understeer then is a very quick snap into oversteer. The whole thing is not working.
Michael Schumacher, Damon Hill, Pierluigi Martini, the only 3 drivers in the top 10 that we haven't seen create a gap for himself, John.
I think that's probably a very sensible idea, but he's got Rubens Barrichello, who came out directly behind him, also looking for clear laps.
So it's very busy on the circuit at the moment. 6, there's about 10 cars out. And there we see Barrichello right behind Michael Schumacher. Now, is he going to go faster than that 19.741? While Gerhard Berger is improved to a 20.139. Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari, now second fastest, third Mika Häkkinen, fourth Jean Alesi, fifth Martin Brundle, and in 6th position Damon Hill.
Back with Schumacher, completing a lap which now looking for a clear road ahead. He wants to consolidate his pole position. I have to say at the minute that anybody who gets into a 1:19 is going to be guaranteed a front row start. But I cannot say there's any car driver combination who is about to dispose Schumacher of his first pole position at Monaco.
And his very first pole position ever in a Formula One car, John.
No better place to have it. I had mine here as well.
Well, going into the tunnel towards the second intermediate. He did a slowish lap at 1:28, and well, thank you very much for the telemetry, but I would have liked to see the difference between the fastest lap and this lap. Now look at this, 212, just when he turns into that swimming pool complex.
The entry speed into the first part of the complex is so high that it's almost a point of just aiming the car in and hoping that you've judged it correctly. Oh, Schumacher, my goodness. Now, entertainment in Formula One isn't something we see too frequently, and again, 19.408, and he has achieved something that is really very remarkable indeed. We're in car live with Schumacher. We saw him come across the line. That wild power slide. Great to watch. Probably lost him another couple of tenths of a second. Schumacher's eyes, I'm sure now, are fairly set on getting into a high 1 minute 18. And who's going to say it's impossible?
There's Jean Alesi, improved to a 20.712 in 4th position. Well, Richard, you've got a driver in the team, Hans-Harald Frentzen, who's in his first year in Formula 1. He's been a surprise to some people, but he could be a star of the future, or do you think he's already a star?
Well, I think certainly there's a lot more to come from Heinz-Harald. Back in my days working for a famous tobacco brand, of course, I had an association with Heinz-Harald, and we always knew that he was very quick, but he tended to be wild at times. He seems to have lost a lot of that wildness. He's matured a great deal in between. I think the performances he's produced so far certainly indicate that he's got a very bright future ahead of him. He's always very quick, he's always very consistent, and he's shown also that he can get the car home in one piece.
Well, just watching Schumacher again on the exit, almost kissing the barrier on the exit of the corner, and then the car diving over to the right-hand side of the track, and Schumacher holding his breath not to make contact. That's the side of the pitch where the teams are working. The result of all that was a stunning, fastest ever provisional pole position, 1 minute 19.408. One thing I would like to ask Richard Grundy, who's with us in the booth from the Sauber team, is Carl Wendinger is not likely to be racing with the Sauber team in Barcelona. Have any discussions about a replacement for Carl been discussed at this time?
Not to my knowledge, John. I don't think the team has got that far yet. They're just coping with the problems that they've been presented with at this weekend, and they're going to get over those first, and then they'll make a decision in due course.
Damon Hill already improved on his time of yesterday by over a second, in fact, but still on the third row of the grid in 6th place.
Damon going through the Raskas. Actually, in that Raskas coffee shop, is people having coffee, John. Well, there's a Ligier stop.
Not a very good place either. That's going to be pushed away. That's at the exit of the Poitiers corner as they enter the tunnel. Interestingly, a comment on driver behaviour from Thursday afternoon. There were a couple of moments where Eric Gomez and Paul Belmondo had incidents at the Raskas corner. They bumped into the barrier. There was bits of car and bodywork of the track. It was interesting to note the number of drivers who didn't observe the waved yellow flags. If drivers want to be recognised and taken seriously in terms of safety, they themselves have got to police their own actions on the track better than I saw on Thursday afternoon.
And we see Damon Hill. I don't think this is a quick lap from Damon. He's seen yellow flags. He's probably backed off just a little bit, but enough on the qualifying lap to make sure you don't have that last tenth of a second within your ground. It's probably coming in anyway, John.
Well, it's been an extremely difficult fortnight for the Williams-Renault team. The tragic loss of Ayrton Senna to the world has been, he is irreplaceable in my opinion. And the team are recovering, and there's a lot of pressure and responsibility on Damon Hill's shoulders.
Who is going into the weighing area, and he's being put back to 7th position now. Because Christian Fittipaldi is up to 5th position. Now that is a very good performance by, let's say, the whole package, John.
Again, Ford engine is going to allow LaRousse, that team based down close to Paul Ricard circuit in Provence, and in fact not so very far away from Monte Carlo itself, to develop consistency. Previously they've had engines, they had the Lamborghini V12 engine last year, an engine that was very powerful, but not quite maybe as easy to install and package into a chassis as a very compact and light Ford V8. There's no question in my mind that for a team of that size, the Ford HB represents the best option, unless you're fortunate enough to have a factory or a manufacturer supported and provided engines.
The good thing about Beretta's car this weekend is got that camera on the nose of the car. You can actually see this little bulb sort of halfway between the nose and the cockpit. Well, the clock didn't stop, but Beretta did improve to... Why is he running through the pit lane?
Well, I think he might be on his way for a comfort break. And knowing where the Benetton pits are placed and where the area of the pit lane he's choosing to get to, he probably has to run. Other developments in Monte Carlo on Saturday morning, unofficial warm-up. Pedro Lamy in the news again. He received a $10,000 fine, reduced to $5,000, for exceeding the 50-kilometer pit lane speed limit. That was an infringement of Article 63 of the FIA Sporting Code. Not frequently invoked, but I think in the light of all the incidents 2 weekends ago in Imola, we're now seeing a more harsh regime being applied, and Lamy, the first person to fall foul of that 50-kilometer per hour mandatory speed limit. In fact, to be honest, it's very difficult indeed for a driver in a Grand Prix car to do 50 kilometers per hour. It's almost little more than a walking pace for a Grand Prix car.
Well, Mika Häkkinen was only 3/10 away from that intermediate, and again locking the inside wheel, but well, let's just wait and see what's happening here.
Well, he gathered it up very well indeed. He didn't lose the momentum, but we've seen twice in the lap Häkkinen getting that right front wheel lock. Brake balance very crucial on a street track, especially with undulations. 1:19.488, outstanding from Mika Häkkinen, and what a race in prospect. We've got two young lions on the front row of the grid after appalling circumstance in Imola. Good to see Formula One is on its road to recovery.
Well, Mika Häkkinen's got 2 laps left, and
I think he may just, with the left front, kiss the barrier. A lot of time can be made up. At the end of the lap, he'll be a lot less tidy. He'll be pushing very hard indeed, but it's important at the start of the lap to place yourself so accurately to get the sort of in, I would say slightly slower, but as much throttle as you can afford.
Mika Häkkinen, he's got the... Oh, and he's kissed the barrier now, definitely, John.
Well, that wasn't a kiss, that was a smack. He tried to break that a little bit later. He took the chance. He paid the penalty, but will it come through in his time? He's got traffic ahead. He's got to compose himself, stay calm, think, and then pick up the pace that he actually exceeded in Mirabeau.
Well, he's 0.4 of a second away now from Schumacher's time, and that's not going to work now. The traffic ahead of him is a Lotus. Oh, Johnny Herbert, former teammate.
It had a bit of the head staggers. Look at that. The front of the car wobbling under braking, the back shaking under acceleration. Mika not really wanting to be too close to Johnny Herbert. It's a waste of time. Herbert trying his best. And Mark Blundell off at Saint-Devoux. He's overshot. He did that on Thursday on his 4th lap. And in fact, he did it on Thursday morning as well. Well, this is the in-car view. Right front block. That's a little nudge. Oh, well, Mika never undercommitted. Head bowed into the corner. Here again we see bump.
we see Mark Blundell going straight on at Zandvoort. And Mark, I hope this time you haven't stalled the engine.
Well, he managed to keep it going on Thursday morning when it wasn't important or so important, but he stalled it Thursday afternoon. And he seems to like that part of the circuit. Difficult to break into Zandvoort. You're coming in on a curve at about 160 miles an hour. If you're not quite sure you're going to make it, let the car go into the escape road. There's plenty of room there, but you must keep the engine running.
Hakkinen will go into the pits, and so will Johnny Herbert. And Herbert, incidentally, is 13th on a 1:22.375. And that's the fastest he's been and the best he's been all year. Well, commitment. Martin Brundle going out of the pits with 11 minutes to go, and Martin has got 8 laps he can try and find. The time to... Well, John, I think if he's going to beat Mika Hakkinen, he might as well try and beat Michael Schumacher.
I think if he beats Hakkinen, he probably will beat Schumacher. Well, this is a circuit that McLaren have effectively called their own for over 10 years, with the exception of '87. And Senna won for the Lotus Honda team. And again, a memorable and masterful drive that particular Grand Prix in '87 was. There's been some reason, I don't know why, McLaren seem to be able to pull performances out of the bag. And Mika Hakkinen certainly maintaining that tradition. Martin Brundle all the way back down now on the 4th row of the grid in 8th place. Very anxious indeed to make it a McLaren front row of the grid.
Well, Gerhard Berger, 20.1. He needs to improve quite a lot to get onto the front row. And we see Gerhard trying to create a gap, and I think Martin Brundle's position fairly nice, although he might be a little too close to Gerhard, John.
Well, Gerhard, of course, will want to look for a clear piece of track. Martin has actually slowed right down even more. He recognises what Berger's trying to achieve. He doesn't want to get wrapped up in Berger's really spectacular qualifying lap in anticipation. Now you see Martin some 5 seconds behind, and that's just about ideal. And Berger very hard on the power out of Zandvoort. The car just back end beginning to move out. Now all the way up the hill, very quick indeed into the Casino Square. The change of direction, very crucial, because there is no curb in the literal sense. It is just a 90-degree curb. You do not wish to make contact. Here you've got chamfered curbs. It is possible to use that to assist the car. For example, first part of Portier, car rides the inside wheel over the curb. Nice balance for Berger and the Ferrari onto the long and fastest part of the circuit, the tunnel, all the way down to the seaside chicane, down into first gear, quick in, not too quick out, a little bit late getting power down into Tabac. Probably, in my opinion, the best corner on the circuit for the thrill through the very fast first part of the swimming pool complex, the slower second part, and now again, look, power slide of the Ferrari all the way down into Rascasse. Throttle, careful application, you don't want to get wheel spins, and then final sliding the car, reminiscence of Schumacher. 19.958, maintaining his third place in the grid, and the third man to break into the 1 minute 19-second barrier.
Martin Brundle, a 1:21.536 on his very first flying lap. And now Martin maybe gambling on that second lap, John, being quicker than the first. Gerhard.
Yes, Gerhard Berger is going to stay well over to the right. Let's Martin Brundle through. But of course, Brundle will know Berger was there. He wouldn't be quite sure what he was going to do. A little bit of anticipation was really what I would see in Martin's driving there. 9/10 slower than Schumacher at the second intermediate point. And now into the tunnel. That corner I said it earlier, a lot tighter. I really wish that the in-car shot from the Eurosport could really illustrate just how fast and difficult a corner that is.
Also out on the circuit is Damon Hill, who is now in 9th, and I can't remember Damon being that far back for a very long time. At 21.5, and that's 2.1 seconds away from pole.
Oh, Martin, look at the blue coming off the rear tires. That was, I think, frustration and temper. And I haven't seen a Grand Prix car do that in many a year.
Well, he's improved. And there is Johnny Herbert's car. Sorry, Pedro Lami's car. And that's at Hotel de Paris.
Well, it's certainly a nice place to stop off if you do want to stop around the circuit. Excellent restaurants, the Café de Paris on the other side of the Casino Square. Do a very good spaghetti bolognese and a glass of Perrier and a nice green salad. Perfect after, well, a foreshortened Saturday qualifying for Pedro Lamy.
Damon Hill is on the second row of the grid, while we have another look at the tyre smoke from Martin Brundle. But Damon improved to a 1:20.6 on this 9th lap.
Martin working very hard. He's on his 8th lap, 4 remaining. But the principal concern he will have is, am I going to meet traffic? He will come around, start again, and inevitably somebody has just come out of pit lane. Again, I don't know what the setup that Brundle has on his McLaren Peugeot, but seeing wheel spin and tyre smoke like that is extremely rare.
No improvement on that lap for Martin. Still the 21.263 on the previous lap.
Whatever sort of differential Brundle has fitted to his McLaren, it certainly is different, or appears to show a different characteristic to Mika Häkkinen. He's getting lots of wheel spin. Again, watch out of Sandebo. He just nails the mother. Tail, I mean, that is something you'd have seen over a decade ago. Not in the high downforce Grand Prix cars of the middle 90s.
A 20.371 now for Damon Hill. Still 4th position, but getting closer to Gerhard Berger in 3rd, and he's got 2 more laps. Well, we are watching Jean Alesi, John. André de Cesaris, for the last time driving the Jordan Hart, has out-qualified Rubens Barrichello so far.
Rubens Barrichello, I think, is one of a number of drivers who had a pretty big shock in Imola. And just, again, this thing of driving yourself back in. It's a difficult circuit to come to, having had a major accident. André de Cesaris, of course, benefiting from the Grand Prix in Imola. So the balance of 2 drivers probably fairly equal at the minute, but I would have expected under normal circumstances Barrichello to be very comfortably inside the top 10.
Well, Damon Hill's going to come in, and he is on a 20.079.6 away from pole, and Damon has improved, John, today over yesterday, 2.6 seconds.
It's been an extremely trying weekend for Damon Hill and for Williams Renault, and I think he gritted his teeth a little bit. The team certainly have worked extremely hard to try and understand what it is like to be at Monte Carlo with a passively suspended car. Remember, for over 2 years they've had the advantage and benefit of active suspension. Going back passive at the kind of cornering speed Monaco stands for has been difficult, and on top of the great loss to the team of Ayrton Senna, it's I think a very fine achievement indeed, both of Damon Hill and for the Williams team in general. Of course, the team and Damon will be totally dissatisfied with the performance.
John. I suppose tomorrow afternoon is what counts for the Williams team more than anything else. Well, let's have a look at this man. He is on pole position. No one will take that away from him. 19.287. That is his fastest time so far. And is he gonna get into the 118?
Well, that was a little comfort break, a little slowing down lap. Again, think about it on that lap. Take it easy. Damon Hill and Patrick Head discussing how the car was. It certainly was a significant gain that they made, and of course now they've found a direction for the Grand Prix itself on Sunday afternoon. On certain parts of the circuit, with this camera looking into Michael Schumacher's face, you get a view of his eyes, and it's just the look on a Grand Prix driver's eyes. They never blink. The eyes are even more wide open than when you see them standing around pits. Schumacher on his 9th lap, exiting the seafront chicane. And the speed, observers around the circuit have said, you know, what is so impressive about Schumacher and his Benetton is the entry speed into corners. He just carries so much speed. It's awesome. Other cars are much slower in. They try to hit the throttle probably too early and too much. Schumacher, when he gets on the throttle, probably only half throttle. Certainly on the exit there, a little bit more than half. That's an 18.560. Absolutely stunning. You've just seen a very special lap from Michael Schumacher. It was beautiful to watch.
An 18.560, 0.9 of a second faster than anybody else here this afternoon in Monaco.
I've only one word to say, that is, it was sublime.
So Michael's backed off there. We see the classification. 118.560. Then Mika Häkkinen, a 119.488. Then Gerhard Berger, a 119.958. Then Damon Hill, a 120.079. Then it's Jean Alesi, a 120.452. Christian Fittipaldi, a 121.053. And there we see Morbidelli, Brundle, Martin and all the rest. But for Michael Schumacher, Mika Häkkinen and Christian Fittipaldi, it's a very good day. But because all those drivers have bettered their best qualifying position ever.
Michael Schumacher absolutely delighted with his first pole position, and very fitting indeed that it should be for him in Monte Carlo. And that, I think, says all there is about the potential of Schumacher and Benetton and Ford. 0.9 of a second faster than an outstanding Mika Häkkinen, who's joining him on the front row of the grid. And while we're all looking at seeing an exciting Grand Prix with only hundredths of seconds between Häkkinen and Schumacher, Schumacher goes and blows the gap and finds almost another second.
You're still going to get into that Sainte-Devote first, though, and it's, as you say, John, two very young chargers.
Well, one thing is very clear in my mind. For Mika Häkkinen to win the Grand Prix, he does have to get ahead of Schumacher at the start, and that is no easy task.
So we see Schumacher and Häkkinen on the front row. Then it's Gerhard Berger and Damon Hill on the second. Jean Alesi and Christian Fittipaldi on the third row of the grid. Don't forget, the Sunday morning warm-up will be from 11 to 11:30 on the continent and 10 to 10:30 in the UK. And the race will start at 3:30 and Eurosport will be on air at 3. And we will stay on after the morning warm-up with live interviews from the pits and the paddock. So Michael Schumacher will start from the right front position tomorrow here in Monaco from John Watson and Allard Kalf. We thank Richard Grundy, and we'll see you tomorrow for more Formula One here on Eurosport.